Welcome to the Sonic Shaman Show, home of the Coffee Connect and Conscious Connections. The show is dedicated to empowering you to perceive, know, be, and express your unique voice in this world without the fear of judgment of others through healing, coaching, and educational services. In each episode, Hank and his guests offer tools, techniques, and inspiration to help you step into your potency. Now, here is your host, Hank Setala.
Over a minute to add myself to the stream, and I dropped the ball, and there I am, like not there after the video ends. Everyone, my name's Hank Setala. I'm the Sonic Shaman, and this is a Coffee Connect where you join me for a morning cup of coffee. We talk about inspiration and possibilities and things. And today, it's something I talked about a couple weeks back, and this is the first Coffee Connect I've done in a couple weeks because I've had so many guests, and I had the awareness that I would like to make a commitment to, at least if I'm going to have a lot of guests in one time, at least do one of these for every two guests I have or something like that, or even one for one. How much fun would we have with that? But I was talking to an old friend, and they had this energy of the world is in so much change that they're not going to create anything until the change stops. And I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what they said, but the energy was they're not moving forward with a lot of things right now because the world is in a state of flux. And then I had this thought come to me: create, don't wait. It's really this idea of creating in the ever-present moment of now. It's the idea of not looking for something else to occur before you have the power and the freedom and the quote unquote what you need to make a choice, because all you have is now. And here's an example from my past. I love the works of Neil Donald Walsh. He wrote the books Conversations with God, which is a trilogy, and then later on, after it was a trilogy, it became a cosmology, and then he's an author, so he wrote a book a year. There's a ton of content around Conversations with God. And I thought it would be so wonderful to have a monthly discussion group and create a space where people can find out about his work and all these types of things. And so I signed up for a year-long program at the time called the Life Skills class. And every single week, you had a different call. You had a coaching call, like in a group. You had a call with Neil presenting information and doing questions and answers. There was another call. I forget. There was a call every single week, and every single week of the month had a different theme of the energy. And it went on for 12 months. And I was maybe 3 months into it, and his book, Happier Than God, had come out, which was a response to the book, The Secret. And it's an amazing book. He wrote the book because he felt that in The Secret, they missed a few key items. So the book, Happier Than God, is all about the mechanism of manifestation, which is relevant to our conversation today, too. And also at about the 15-minute mark, I'll have a special guest coming on with me as well. But anyway, so I go to Baltimore at the time, get a Greyhound ticket, go out to Baltimore because he's teaching a workshop about Happier Than God. And during one of the breaks, I'm waiting in line with my books. And when I have my little 30 seconds with him, or however long it is as you're getting your book signed, I'm telling him how excited I am because I'm in this 12-month program. And after I have the program, then I'll have all the information I need to then hold a discussion group. And with no real thought to it, he's writing his name in the book, and he looks at me and says, "If not you, who? If not now, when?" And I went home and I started the group that month. And I've had that group going. We're taking a break right now, but I had the group going 10 years, over 10 years. It was 2018 that I started, and now it's 2021. And I just in January, I took a break from it because I was regrouping my energy a little bit. But notice the thing is, that in that moment, I didn't even need to take the 12-month class. I could have started having the group right then and there. But how many times in our life are we like, in order to be the thing I call a leader or a group facilitator, or be the thing that they call the healer, or be the reader, or be the entrepreneur, or whatever, I need A, B, and C all to line up perfectly. A, B, and C, and then I can have D, right? The truth is, in this ever-present moment of now, what can you choose right now that will be a help to that will be a facilitation of that? Because things can show up way, way faster. And there's a difference between a declaration and a question to the universe, or a request to the universe, and a decree. The universe is kind of like the waitress. You give it the order, the waitress takes your order, and they bring you whatever it is that you asked for. The couple problems that we have is we have the idea sometimes that you can ask for something and the answer can be no. The answer is always yes. The question is not if it will happen, it is when it will happen. And the thing that impacts the when that it will happen is us, our willingness to receive it right now. Our willingness to receive it right now. Nothing else. If you're willing to receive it right now, the things can actualize, meaning that they show up instantly. Manifestation is how it shows up. And the biggest place where we really run into that issue is if we have the idea and the point of view that, hey, you know what? The only way I'm able to receive abundance in my world is through the thing they call paycheck. If that is the thing and you put out to the universe to bring you more abundance, it's going to put this whole thing into works where, and I'll give you an example. I worked for the bank for 10 years and I knew when Cleveland Clinic bought our buildings, this is in Beechwood, Ohio, for those of you who might not be local, and Bank of America bought MBNA. They sold the buildings that we were in to the clinic. So my business mind, obviously, if they sold the buildings to the clinic can easily use all 4 buildings. It's not a question of if we close, it is a question of when we close. And I put it in my head that the thing that I needed to be a healer and be this work full time is I needed that severance and I needed that. And so I waited years longer than I really probably needed to start doing this work because I'm waiting for that severance package. And it never came. Not until this moment where I said, you know what, universe, I'm done with this. This no longer serves me. By this date, I don't care if the severance package has shown up or not. I'm out. And I started looking at what are the infinite possibilities. I started looking for other jobs. If I needed to quit, I also found out through this looking that in Ohio, you can quit with cause and get unemployment. So I looked at that. What do I need for that? And I started doing everything so that when that date came, I would have a whole bunch of opportunities to choose from. I would be able to easily move out of that space of the bank and into whatever the next opportunity was going to be on my march to be self-employed doing this work full time. And guess what happened 2 weeks after I finally made that decree? I got the severance package. So sometimes the way that we want it to show up, the way that we would prefer it to show up, all it takes is for us to open up to any way that it could show up. And then it frees up the energy of the universe to bring it to you. And then it's usually in the most preferred way that you can imagine, or a way that you never even dreamed fathomable. Like actually, I ended up with both. I got a huge lump sum severance. And the way that I did it, I was also able to claim unemployment. So I had like a 2-for-1 deal. And it made it very easily for me to go into that work full time. And now get this, the day that it happens, they call us all into this big area. And they're giving us the news that they're closing the site. I was the only one who jumped in joy, by the way. My coworker slugged me in the arm because she was not exactly in the same mindset at the time as me. But I get back to my desk and I'm looking at my phone. And there's this message in the Holistic Health and Healing group that I ran even back then. Someone saying, hey, we got an office space for rent in Lakewood. And it was only like $150 a month or $200. It was like really cheap. And of course I was going to need an office to do all my shaman shenanigans. And so it was like what the severance happened. We were losing our jobs at the bank. And at the same day that happened, literally I had my office. And so when you start to really be in the flow and decreeing to the universe, instead of requesting to the universe and being consistent with your choice, that is a huge thing. Like you say, hey, I would like A, B, or C to show up. But then instead of asking the question, what can I be today to help the universe along with A, B, and C? Instead, we're off looking at some other thing that we're interested in. We don't have a consistency in our focus for the universe to know that, hey, this is really important and not just a fleeting thought. In Access, we say live in 10-second increments. The more 10-second increments that have the same consistency of choice for something you like to actualize, the more potency you add into that choice. It's huge. But if you change your mind every 10 seconds, and that you can change your mind every 10 seconds, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is if you have a lot of seconds throughout the day, how many of those seconds are focused on one particular thing that you're looking to actualize in your life, and how many are random things? Even if you do the thing, what can I choose now to create more in my life? Even that question, even if you're making random choices that appear to not be connected at all, you're still adding potency to creating more and more and more in your life. And incidentally, folks, this is supposed to be interactive. I forgot to say at the beginning, please make comments if you like to If you have a question or if you have something going on in your world that you'd like me to speak to, in a couple minutes, about 5 minutes, I'm going to have Heather coming on with me, who is a certified facilitator of Access Consciousness. I'm actually excited today. Well, here's another story of actualization for you. I see what's one of the most potent classes I've ever taken was an Access class called Foundation, and also the How to Become Money workbook, which Foundation is based on, actually. And I wanted to bring more abundance into my life and everything. So I reached out to Heather and I'm like, hey, what would it take to create a money class? And from that, just following the energy, and I could have thought, I'm going to wait and not wait till I have the ducks in a row or figure out what I'm doing with the sun or all kinds of different things. But I'm like, no, I'm just going to reach out. And just from one message, it turned into what we call a create call, where you're just creating possibilities. And now I'm hosting her for like 5 things. That's just one other example. My friend Brian, this shirt, I can't wear this when I'm doing the green screen because you can't see the green. It like disappears in the green screen thing. He is a marvelous example of living in the moment and choosing and declaring to the universe with absolutely no job, little money, literally what he could fit into a suitcase, maybe 2 suitcases. He left Ohio. He spent, I think, 6 months in Mexico. He leaves there, comes back for a short period of time, leaves Ohio again, goes to Australia, lives there for a year. And again, he doesn't have a formal job or anything like that, just putting out to the universe show up. And I know his Hawaii story a little bit more, and I'll share more of that one. So then he goes from Australia to Hawaii. He gets to Hawaii, literally has no place to stay, doesn't have a car or anything. And, I have to have him on to tell the whole story, but basically one person after another he happens to run into and meet. And they're like, hey, would you like a place to stay? He's like, yes, please. Hey, would you like a free car? First it was a moped, and then he upgraded from the moped and someone gave him a Prius. And like just every step along the way, these opportunities just show up for him and he's taken care of. And it's because he was choosing and he had the willingness to receive. That's the other thing that really sticks us. We might ask, I give the example, you order a pizza, right? Back to the analogy with the waitress. You put in your order to the universe, deliver me A, B, and C so I can experience D, right? So you put that in, and then the waitress shows up or the delivery guy shows up, DoorDash, whatever analogy you like. They're knocking on the door with your food and you don't answer. That is a metaphor for your willingness to receive. How often do we put out to the universe to bring us something and it actually shows up, but maybe it doesn't show up in the way that we thought? Wow, the birds are really out today. They're loving it. I'm out in my sunroom because, why wouldn't I be today? Because it's so awesome and I could wear my fun Hawaiian shirt. But they are really, I probably can hear them with the microphone. But maybe it shows up in a way that you never expected. And then because it doesn't show up in the way you thought it was supposed to show up, then, it's not as welcome to be received. Or you don't even recognize it at all and you can't receive it. And one example that comes to mind, it was a clarity night with Andrew Gardella, and he was teaching at the center. And there was one person who had taken his classes before that were giving an example of following the energy. They needed money for a project that they were doing. And they were and they would ask all the time, what energy, space, consciousness, and choice can my body, being, and beyond be to actualize this money for this project with total ease, or a variation of that. I don't know which question they actually asked, but they ask that question all the time. And then the idea is, as you go throughout your day, something will just pop, or I like to say, it will shine to you. And it's like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I need to talk to that person. And that's this is what happened to him. He's at the gym and he just keeps noticing somebody, and he ends up striking up a conversation with them, and they happen to be like a private equity investor. They just had an investment payout, and they were looking for the next thing that they were going to invest in. And it's like it was a marriage in heaven. And sometimes you don't really know the why behind it. Just to give you an example, when I was going through the 2-year program at Fellowships of the Spirit in Lilydale, and I had to do so many documented readings and healings every year, I had this one girl that I had done a reading for, and her aunt came through, but her aunt was still here. She just had Alzheimer's and dementia, which I find sometimes spirits will show up. I have this theory that with especially memory issues, sometimes the soul's already out and starts to cycle, and you can have this vibration of them being dead, but they're not dead. It's like a very subtle difference. But anyway, that's a topic for another stream on mediumship. So I had already given her this reading, which is the only reason I thought, oh, you know what? I'm telling the wrong story. Let's rewind. That's a whole different story. My friend at the bank, her grandfather had Alzheimer's. So at least that part, I was on the same thread of energy. And she said, I just wish that I could have one more day of actually being present with my grandpa. And so I asked, what would create this possibility? And I'm like, I don't know why, just buy him yellow flowers. And she's like, yellow flowers? You know, like, I'm like, what would that have to do with my grandpa being present with me? But she did it. And when she brought those yellow flowers in the room, he lit up like a Christmas tree, you know, like he just came fully present. They had a conversation, and the next day he actually passed away. So the yellow flowers made no logical sense at all. But that is what was required for that question of what would it take for me and my grandpa to have one more day together. And I see that my special guest Heather is here. I'm going to make sure my headphones are plugged in. I'm going to bring her on. Everyone, this is Heather McMillan.
Hey.
She is a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness, and as well as one of the classes that I absolutely love in Access, since I was kind of on a mediumship topic. She teaches Talk to the Entities, which is like a modern contemporary approach to mediumship. Absolutely phenomenal. And if you want to save the date out in October, maybe even on Halloween, how much
that would be so much fun. Yes. You look so tropical today, like you're ready to go on a vacation, maybe to Mexico, perhaps.
Maybe. Well, this came from Hawaii. My friend Brian was there. You know, I have to be careful because I never know when one of my kids will watch the stream. So let's just say we got a care package from Hawaii, and this was it. This was in this care package, and it's just such a fun shirt, but I can never wear it when I'm inside using the green screen because of the green. It, like you see the picture of whatever I'm projecting on it. So it's not that's something for inside, but outside in the sunroom, it's like, yeah, let's do this. But welcome everyone. This is Heather. Like I said, we wanted to talk a little bit about possibilities, and the whole topic today: wait, don't create. I don't know if you caught any of the stream that I was doing, but I had an inspiration from somebody that you know as well, actually, that was in this energy of with all the change in the world.
Yeah.
Like just not like waiting for it all to stop changing. And
good luck.
Yeah. And there's actually a book. It's called When Everything Changes, Change Everything. That one's by Neil Donald Walsh, but that's really the energy. The only thing you know that will never change is that everything will always change.
Oh my gosh. And in fact, I mean, it's so funny that you said that. I'm looking for the exact name of it, but actually Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, posted a class just yesterday called The World Has Changed, Now What? So apparently a lot of people are really in the demand and the question of, wow, like the world is so different than it was even a month ago. What's next? What can I create?
Yeah, even literally second to second, with as many beings that are on the planet, as many humans that are on the planet, from second to second, we are never in the same world. It's a constant flux. The only thing that that might open us up to being aware of that more is just like how much of that are we really willing to receive? And based on that awareness and willing to receive that awareness, what can we now be in the world to create change that will allow us to thrive instead of survive?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for me, and we've talked about this before on these streams, the most exciting way is to really ask some questions like what is possible now that's never been possible before?
Absolutely. And I just realized I need to go live to the group now. So I'm looking for I mean, when it was just like me being random, I didn't want to go to an Access group, but now that it's you, like I'll go to the other place.
Yeah.
So here we go. Here we go.
Are awesome. People watching this morning?
Yeah.
Is anyone else awake?
They are. Oh no, they are since 8 o'clock. You know, I usually do these coffee connects, and I had this awareness too that for me, like what I've had so many guests on the last 2 weeks. Like I've been streaming with you, I've had guests on for my other podcast, and I haven't done these. And like usually, at least a couple times a week, I would come on just me, have my cup of coffee, and talk about whatever topic I would want.
Awesome.
And I got away from that. It's like, you know, for every guest I have on, or every 2 guests, I should really make a commitment to myself to honor me and show up just for me. It's like so important. And that's really what that's really the flavor of what we're talking about today. Yeah. Wait, don't create. Show up for you, because usually the waiting for I need A and B and C in order to do D, that's just you not showing up for you. And those are reasons and justifications of why you're not willing to receive right now what you're really looking and demanding from the universe.
Well, yeah. And I mean, Wow. I mean, who or what are you waiting for is the question that came to me when you were saying that. And what if that's just a decision and a conclusion and a point of view? And what if you could destroy and uncreate that and really ask the universe, will you show me what's possible now? Like what's possible now?
Yeah. that that's such an important question. And really, like, how many times do people just stop and they don't say now what? They go, oh my God. Like they're in that, it's a
Yeah.
beyond. We have an idea and access with the clearing statement, beyonds. And those are the
Yeah.
things that, like, if you get a bill in the mail and you were expecting, your cell phone bill to be $70, and I'm pot and pocking this in advance, universe, I'm not looking to create this experience for myself. But then you get this bill because your kids have a phone and they started buying things in an app or something like that. Now you
Yeah.
have a $700 bill and your whole world stops for a moment because, like, how are you going to pay that? Or the moment you get terminal news for health, or a lot of different things. Sometimes it takes us so far out of being present that then we're not even in the space to make a choice. And then what do you do to get back to that? Ask a question, right?
Totally. And we've all had that like beyond sensation of like some like unexpected news or whatever that keeps us stuck. And it's just it's so easy with these access tools, and it's one of my favorite topics of the bars class, because when I heard that for the first time I was like, oh my gosh. And it's so easy to just destroy and uncreate that and use the access clearing statement
Yeah.
to clear all that stuff so that you can really be in that question, like you were saying, ask a question like, what would I like to create now? And for everyone listening, for all of us, what would we really like to create now? And what if, with all of the changes that have been going on in the world, we have these tools available to us to really create something totally different? What is actually possible now that has never been possible before? And what would you really like to create?
That is a question. And then what is so comfortable about what you're experiencing now that you would choose that over creating new possibility?
Well, exactly. I mean, when something isn't, fun for me or isn't everything that I'd like it to be, I ask, well, who am I being here? And what's the value of being that instead of being me and creating what I'd really like to create? And we also have to talk about this thing, the concept of allowance. you know,
Mhm.
First and foremost, having allowance for ourselves and the universe. And that's where everything is just an interesting point of view. There's no positive polarity of aligning and agreeing or the negative polarity of resisting and reacting. And we have to have that for ourselves, because sometimes the universe takes a little while to rearrange itself. And so when you ask for something, some things may have to come into play. Some things may have to change. Some people may leave. Like some different, parts may have to come together. And if you come to that conclusion, if you come to the conclusion that this sucks, this isn't working, then you've stopped. You've stopped all of that motion, that creation with your conclusion.
Right. Instead, you could ask, what's right about this I'm not getting?
Yes.
What else is possible? And I
Yeah.
also feel it's important to touch on this, and I'll tell a story to bring this into context. But there's a difference between asking the universe in terms of like a kid asking a parent, "Can I have permission to?" Is the
Yeah.
energy of, and the decree or declaration of your choice. And to give an illustration, my wife hates that I taught my kids this to our detriment. But my son Max comes in and says, "Daddy, can I have some chocolate?" And I go, "No." And he's like, "But Oliver has chocolate." I'm like, "Oliver didn't ask." And he's like, "I get it." And he just went over and he got chocolate. Like a permission question, there is no yes or no. The answer really is always yes. And it's like the difference. And it's not like you're bossing the universe around. It's just a declaration of choice. Universe, this is what I'm choosing to have. Bring it on. And that's the universe's job, is to create whatever it is that you choose. But some people, and I think maybe it's a conditioning from religion and just these things, like, like the may I have this versus do this for me. And getting comfortable decreeing what you're actually choosing and not being in the space where there's any doubt that the answer could be no. Just like I was raised Lutheran, that's why I'll use a Bible reference, but they said that the greatest prayer is a prayer of gratitude as though it's already so. You have no doubt. It's
Oh,
just
that's
you.
beautiful.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
declaring your will, your decree to what you're choosing to show up in your life. And then the universe says, God says, you're whatever words you want to use that are comfortable for you. Here you go.
Yeah. Well, I love that you mentioned gratitude, because I notice, as soon as you mention that, it's like everything in my world just softened. And gratitude is this incredibly beautiful, creative energy. And how can we be using gratitude that we've never used it before? Like applying it to situations we'd either like to change, or something that we'd like to have be greater and even more fun. How can we add gratitude to that to exponentialize possibilities?
I love that word, exponentialize. It's
Yes.
just such a fun word. And and I don't know if you've heard the story about me, because just recently, till we were streaming, like we didn't like talk as much in classes, and now you're kind of getting to know me a little bit more through
Yeah.
these. But I was a professional drinker for many years, and when I first retired, I got sober. My mantra that was given to me by my sponsor at the time, he said, "Self-pity and gratitude cannot coexist." And
Yeah.
every time you find yourself in a space of like, woe is me, or whatever the case is, like you take a moment, you take a step out, and you put it into some form of gratitude statement. And here's the example. Like there was somebody in my life who drank very much like me. I won't call them an alcoholic. It's up for them to come to that awareness on their own. But I would always be like, I wish I could do something. He's like, no, stop right there. What you say is, I'm so grateful that I'm in a space of sobriety and ability that if and when they're ready for help, I can be of service. And really that it was a word game at first, but when you really stay the course and you use tools like this and the ones from Access, like there's becomes a tipping point where you start to get it. Like Gary says, you get it when you get it. You start using the tools, but there's a shifting point where instead of using the tools, you're being the tools.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if for how many of you who've been using these tools for a while, do you notice that things kind of shift just when you show up? Like just when you show up somewhere, it gets lighter and easier, and people start laughing and having a good time. And it's like, I wonder what energy I'm being that's contributing to this.
Yeah, my younger son, parenting is such a wonderful gift, because I see these things and I hear these echoes of my parents like telling me things, and then it's like, yeah, they were right about that. Like the older I get, the smarter my parents become. But like with kids, I'm really having this opportunity to see like these trends and whatnot. And now I forgot where I was going with that. There was some point.
The gift of parenting.
Well, yeah, because you see all these things that allow you to then reawaken and readdress and anchor things that you knew in a whole different way. I now remember the full concept. My one son, Oliver, is always the world happening to him. So and so did this. So and so did that. Max did this. This happened. It's always outside of him. And I say, Oliver, I have something I really want you to anchor in, that throughout everything in your entire life, there's only one common denominator, and that is you.
Oh,
And so like if you can take responsibility for everything, you can begin to change anything, because you can't control other people. But even if all those things are true, you can control how you respond or react and choose related to those things. And that's where life can start happening through you instead of to you, because otherwise you can just be a victim through it all and never really show up and start to create.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that really shifted for me the first time I took foundation. Is I started to see, and this is really essential to a conversation on creation and getting out of a holding pattern and starting to create your life, is recognizing that anything that is going on in your life is because of a choice that you've made. And the freeing and amazing thing when you have that awareness, when you have that information, is that if something's not fun for you, say someone's mean or whatever, it's like, well, what choice did I make? May not have been, in some time, space, dimension, and reality that allowed this to occur. What choice did I make or am I making that created this? And it may have been like lifetimes ago, if you're open to that, or it could have been, What 10 seconds of unconsciousness and anti-consciousness created this? What choice did I make? Because it's always a choice.
Or a choice you didn't make, because a non-choice is a choice in of itself.
Exactly.
And the example I like to give is like, if you have a window open, like if you forget to close a window, you're not inviting a burglar to come in, but if you get robbed, that might be a result of you leaving the window open. And the example that I give for that is if you were, third grader on the bus and you get bullied and you didn't have the potency at that time to stand up for yourself. And you have this window open of being a victim and letting people walk all over you or whatnot. This window is open from this unhealed wound. And that's where like the access clearance statement can get to the roots of that and start to shift and untangle and to unwind that. So things like that, like the bullies of your life right now showing up, can stop showing up because you can take care of that window that's open from the non-choice way back in third grade.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's so beautiful about these tools is that what if we can change this? And by being present with the choices that we have made or are making and recognizing that it is a choice, what different choice could we make that would be way more fun and would create more for us and for everyone?
Absolutely. And reminder, folks, if you have any questions, now is the time. There's no time like the present.
Questions are so fun.
And the other energy that kind of really fits in with all of this too is the difference between actualization and manifestation. Like as we're talking about creation and everything, and actualization is that it shows up and not necessarily having a point of view about the how, and manifestation is the how. And sometimes we think about the how only, and it basically handcuffs the universe. Like if the only way I can receive abundance is by, I'm talking with my hands and you guys can't see, so I have to push the camera back further. But yeah, if you're only able to receive a certain way, it's basically handcuffing the universe that it can only bring it to you in one way. And once you break out of those chains and say, universe, I'll take it any way, please, just bring it with ease. That's the only condition I give the universe now is bring it however you need to bring it, but with ease, please. And it just creates a grace around how it shows up in my world.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the point of view, the example that came to me when you were talking is, if you say you'd like more money and you're like, oh, I have to get a different job. Well, how many conclusions are in that whole request? So you're putting parameters and it's something we talk about in this magical book that I mention almost every time. But it's this place where you're defining the path for the universe and you're not allowing the universe of infinite possibilities to maybe show you a shortcut that would be way easier and more fun than what you've delineated, than what you've defined and decided. And it's really the energy of what else is possible that you've never considered.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, the other part of this, the whole theme of today, really, wait or create, don't wait.
Don't wait.
How many people with success stories and things, it all came from them just making a choice. Like if one of the people I love reading about, his name is Steve Harvey. He's like the host of Family Feud now, but he's a comedian, and he has this whole story about he just kept choosing. He just kept choosing. Things showed up. He just kept choosing, and he did it anyway. And so when it comes to that, like what choices can people really make today that would start the avalanche of possibility instead of waiting? Like what choice could you make today? Like really feel that, like what choice could you make today that would really start to change everything? Like for me, it was all, one, like the class with Neil that I had taken. I don't know how much of you listened to before coming on, but I was like, I took that class and then he said, if not you, who? If not now, when? And the awareness that I gained from starting to have that group right away is that I didn't need to have all the classes in order to start being a teacher. In fact, they would say that you acknowledge that you're a teacher by teaching, and it brings it to you faster. The universe gives you opportunities to express that. So like really, what potencies do people have now that they could start choosing with that could be a contribution to them, that all they have to do is choose?
Yeah. I mean, what can you choose today that would make your life easier right away?
It's a really good question. And where are you not allowing yourself to receive that as the part two to that? Really.
It's totally true. Yeah. I mean, if you have the point of view that if you're asking for more ease and you simultaneously have this, disparate point of view that, I have to do it all on my own so that I can be right, or it's wrong to ask people for help, then you're like you're making it like really difficult for the universe, because what if there are people who really enjoy contributing to you and making your life easier?
It's huge. And I was just putting in the chat box a link for people for a moment. I was a little distracted. I apologize. I was like, I got to get this link. I got to get this link. And then and also welcome to people who are watching on Twitch today. Like, this is like one of the first times I'm streaming to Twitch. So that's kind of fun.
Yay.
We'll see what happens with that. But let's see, what question could we be and ask here that will create the greatest possibility for the rest of the stream? Or what questions do you guys have? Because that is where the real magic happens, is when somebody asks a question and we can go down a rabbit hole of possibility. Those are the best things. But what question could we be here? Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, what would you really like to create? I mean, it's a big question. And what if you could have an awareness of the energy of that without a definition or a conclusion?
Yeah, because like words, there's a quote that language is the feeble attempt to put words of the allness to the isness, meaning that like when you're talking about possibility and like the energy of what you can create, it's so far beyond the concept of language that even by putting context around it, in a way you're defining it and concluding it. And that's why in Access, you're asking what energy could I be, and you're letting that energy come up. You don't have to call it anything. You just become aware of it. And that's like a huge potency, being able to function from that space and create from that space.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it several times on this stream before. So if you're a frequent watcher and listener, you've heard this, but that's how Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, actually came to discover these amazing tools that I'm so grateful for. And he discovered Access Bars that way by really asking a question. He was asking, what would I like my life to be like? And without a definition, without a conclusion, he didn't start with, oh, I'm going to create an international movement. He was asking the question, what would I like my life to be like? And what can I be, do, have, create, or generate to make my life and the world a better place? And by being aware of that energy, he started choosing the things that matched that energy, that had the same vibration, for lack of a better word, of that question.
Yeah, and it's like following a trail of energetic breadcrumbs. Like for me, way back, it was like starting with one little book that led to another book, that led to a class, that led to a group, that led to this, that finally led to the center and Access Consciousness and Finding Heather. And it's like all these amazing things. But the thing is that I started.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like waking up or retiring from my career as a professional drinker, like waking up and then really asking, like, what would that? And I always knew I was like a healer and someone that could help people. But it was like really waking up and allowing that. And the greatest tool in the world for me, if I wish I had this as a kid, was, who does this belong to?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Me too.
Because I'm so like an empath on steroids, and growing up, especially in high school, being aware of other people's stuff, like I was in a way medicating my awareness, or trying to, but it actually makes it worse.
Totally. I mean, the Access tool of who does this belong to is gold, because what if you're far, far more psychic than you've ever given yourself credit for? And I've found recently, we started this whole conversation with, the world is so different. Like, what can we create now? I mean, I've noticed that sometimes I have to ask, who does this belong to? Like 4 or 5 times. Wow, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Wow.
Yeah. And we actually have a question, and this is someone from one of the Facebook groups. And in the video description, there is a thing that says "Go stream your permission." So if you do want us to be able to see who you are, you can click that, and then we'll see. You could be mysterious Facebook user. We're fine with that too. But the question is, how can I ask to the universe when I don't know when I don't know what I really know what is better? When you don't know what's better than something, how do you know what to ask, or how to ask the universe?
Well, you can ask a question, with what your question inspires is another access tool, which is asking, how does it get any better than this? So whatever shows up or whatever's going on in your life, you can ask, well, how does it get any better than this? I mean, Hank, how does it get any better than this? Here we
Yeah.
are. We get to have these amazing conversations in the morning. I'm so grateful. And how does it get any better than this?
Yeah, and they use that example too. Whether you just stubbed your toe or just won the lottery, no matter what just showed up in your world, you ask that question, and it creates this upward spiral or possibility. And if you are in a space where it really isn't clear, then we'll know that if you are out of the space of what's right or wrong entirely,
Yes,
that's another
yes,
access
yes.
tool. Interesting point of view, right? So something shows up and you're labeling it as bad or wrong. Instead, perhaps I invite you to say, "That's interesting," and just like
Yeah.
start to take the
Interesting
charge
point
off
of
of
view.
it,
I
and
have
then
this point of
how
view.
does it get any better than this? That is a whole nother as a tool to start that upward spiral.
Yeah, I mean, really, like getting out of judgment is a huge tool. I mean, the definition of consciousness and access is that it includes everything and judges nothing, and that includes ourselves and our creations. And we talked about this before, but really staying out of that place where we're concluding of like, oh, this isn't working. That's a conclusion and a judgment. Instead, we can ask, well, what else is possible here? How does it get any better than this?
And a big part of that is also just showing up for your experience. A lot of time through life, we're going through an autopilot. We
Hmm.
call them in Access, we call them the Becamex. It's an acronym for like the autopilot of your life. And
Hmm.
and disengaging the autopilot and showing up for every moment, whether it's brushing your teeth, driving your car. How often do you drive and like you don't remember the drive and you got to work? It's like showing up so you have the ability in the moment to even use the tools is 90% of it, that you show up to be able to say, how does it get any better than this? It's the places that we're being unconscious in our life that we're reacting that are building up the stuff that we then need to clear through. So what would it take? What energy could you be to show up and use the tools of change in every single ever present moment of now? And that's going to really start that spiral. The more you can show up, the more exponentially you can change everything.
Yeah, and I one way to start playing with all of this, and it's one thing we can leave everybody with, because I'm gonna get going here. We've got a How to Become Money workbook class starting in
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and you guys are all invited. If there's no prereqs, we'd love to have you. It's going to be really fun. It's the first of a 10-part series. Um, and But one of the tools, to play with this creation energy is waking up every morning and asking questions. Before you check the phone, before you start, engaging in all these different energies. Okay, well, who am I today? And what grand and glorious adventures am I going to have? And what else is possible today that I've never considered? And what would it take for today to be more fun than I can imagine possible?
Indeed. And for those of you who want just more of like the dialogue between Heather and I, we've been archiving.
We
I
have
don't I don't have them all put out
collection.
there, but on Emergence of Being's website /possibility, I have all the videos kind of trickled throughout the page. And then I also have a playlist on the Sonic now I forget. It's one of the two YouTube channels.
There's a playlist
I,
on
I have
YouTube.
I have two different YouTube channels. I think it's on mine. Anyway, I'm gonna
What
make
are
a
your two
playlist.
YouTube channels?
I
Tell us.
have
Tell us, Hank.
Emergence of Being and the Sonic Shaman, and technically I also have Stir Crazy Shamans, which is like where
I
they
love
just
that name. Stir Crazy Shaman.
that's
So
what
fun.
started me with live streaming. We were in an in-person class, and lockdown was happening just over a year ago, or a little bit more than a year ago, and we had to go virtual. And then after we went virtual, I'm like, how much fun would it be to just have a podcast called Stir Crazy or live stream
Yeah.
Stir Crazy Shamans and offer people some lightness because there's so much tension in the world.
Yes.
And we just started it, and we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of streaming. And from that spawned all these other channels and all this other possibility. And that's just another example of showing up and choosing. Like I could have been like, well, before I didn't have a camera or microphone that was good for streaming. I had none of that stuff, but I did it anyway. And so like, what if you don't need all the other things? Like that stuff can come and you can improve upon things, of course. But what if I had waited to get the camera, to get the computer that can actually handle a green screen from a processing standpoint, to get the microphone, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
There would always be a reason or a justification why I can't yet. I have to do this. Then I have to go and I have to make sure I can actually talk, or I talk way too fast, which I do. You know, my friend Ernie says I talk at 90 miles per hour with gusts up to 150, but it's just me. But like, what if I had all these points of view about, well, people won't be able to won't listen because I talk too fast or any of the stuff, then I just never would have started. So like, what are all the things that are causing you not to start that you could start?
Exactly. And that would be such a fun topic for one of these streams, is the trap of perfectionism, because that's been so freeing to me with these tools of access consciousness, is that none of it's about being perfect. And we're called facilitators. We're not called masters or teachers, because it's really about creating more ease for everyone. And it's, you know, empowering you to know that you know what's true and what's going to work for you, and allowing you to access that knowing.
And you'll find out I have memes for everything. So I have, you know, practice progress over perfection.
Oh, I love that graphic. That's so cool.
I'll throw it up for a little bit longer. Yeah,
Yay.
practice progress over
Beautiful.
perfection. That's one of the things we say in the program of AA is you practice spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection, because you'll never be perfect, because that's just an illusion. You know, it's always, you're always changing. Yeah. Yeah. So like, what would it take? And as long as I'm on memes, I want to give everybody one more and then we'll hop off, because we do have a class starting in 15 minutes. With the inspiration of COVID, starting all these streams, I kind of got a tap on the shoulder from the unseen world saying, sit down, we're going to give you an acronym for COVID. And so I sat down and I wrote it out, and I'm starting trying to figure out, they're like, no, we'll just give it to you. And it came through as this. COVID, what if COVID-19 is Earth's way of making us stop for a moment to, as a verb, COVID, create opportunities via intuiting divinity? And what world would we create if we were all in touch with the divine? And so what if we can start all creating that way, like really getting in touch with that inner spark, that divine soul, like really creating from our unlimited potential? What world would we live in? In the kingdom of we, not the kingdom of me.
Exactly. Like, what can you create that no one else can?
Yeah, because we're all different and we all have potencies. We just sometimes undervalue our gifts because they come so naturally to us. Like, why would anybody value this? It's so easy, but it's not easy for someone else.
Exactly.
Awesome. But thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thank you everybody.
I put a link in the comments if you do choose the money class, which is 15
money
minutes,
class, 13
you
minutes.
can do that. And if you're catching this on the replay, even if you missed the first class, they're all recorded. Yeah. So you can sign up and get the archive. And there's a Facebook group, and I'm going to be asking all kinds of questions, because as soon as you choose a class, I find that it starts, you know, so I've already been having things going on. Yeah. But anyway, thank you everyone. We will catch you next time. Bye.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us today for the show. The Sonic Shaman is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit emergenceofbeing.com to learn about all the contributors and learn about our services and upcoming events. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You can contribute to the show by supporting our efforts and sharing our content with those you care about and those who need it most.